Hey, what's up, y'all? Dan back at you with another video. Today's video is another build guide. This is one of my new favorite builds, Solar Hunter. Solar Hunter has had a lot of changes over the past year, and for this build I wanted to find a way to allow us to take advantage of classy restoration without using classy restoration. What that means is always being in what I like to call a state of recovery, a state of healing, and allowing us to just scorch everything while just doing a lot of damage and just destroying everything. As always, there is a build guide dim link in the description. So let's get into it. Alright, I'm going to walk you through the Solar Hunter build, all built around basically having restoration up as often as possible, having radiant up as often as possible, and having recovery from every single kill and ability kill. And if we are in a pinch, we can then take advantage of going invisible from our abilities. So there's a couple things I want to walk through. First, we're going to walk over the subclass. I'm using Blade Barrage because it's the best. Now, if you are using it in a quote-unquote, I guess, damage scenario, you could go for Marksman, or you could go for a Deadshot, whichever one you prefer. But I think Blade Barrage is just one of the better choices for this, especially because it's one of the lower cooldowns as well, so you can get your super back quicker than the other two. That being said, I have messed around with a Deadshot, and it's also really fun with this build. You can just spam a bunch of shots, make a bunch of orbs and all that kind of stuff. It's just really fun if you want to have a more, I guess, traditional Cade cosplay. That's pretty fun. But for this, we're going with Blade Barrage. For this, we're also taking advantage of Acrobat's Dodge. The reason we're doing this is because we want to have a way to make Radiant, so we can take care of anti-barriers. If you are in a situation that you don't need to take advantage of Radiant, you can always go for the traditional Gambler's Dodge or Marksman Dodge. Any of these are great, but this build allows us to just take advantage of Radiant and have restoration at all times. Of course, I like to use triple jump. You can use whatever jump you want. This is a bit of a, I guess, depending on what I'm doing, I like running Knife Trick with Scorch targets and ignite them, which gives me another way of just stunning an unstoppable champion. If I'm not in a scenario where I'm taking advantage of unstoppables, I like to also use Proximity Knife. I just toss it in an area. When enemies get close to it, they blow up. That being said, if it's a higher value target, there's a chance it might not kill them. But if you're in an area with a lot of red bars and stuff, you can just spam this Proximity Knife, and every single time it gives you a kill, it gives you your melee back, which is nice. Also, Knife Trick as well is really good. Get a kill with Knife Trick, it gives you your melee back as well. Pairing this with Assassin's Cowl, every time we get our power melee kill or a finisher, we get invisibility on Solar, which is really nice. And that ability, invisibility, lasts for about 10 seconds, which is more enough time to get out of a pinch or a situation that you need to like get away from. It also heals you. So we have another way of healing, we have another way of getting restoration, and we have another way of just surviving and staying in the fight longer. So going back to this, I also like to use Fireball Grenades. It's just kind of the big thing this season. Running Fireball Grenades are really nice because you can have 2 of them. Every time I toss a grenade, it scorches everything and also just ignites if I don't kill stuff. And it's really good because it has a very high amount of crowd control. And of course, it has a very low cooldown. So unlike something like solar grenades or healing grenades, which we don't need in this build, Fireball Grenades will always allow us to have a grenade, especially with some of the other things that we're talking about later. The aspects are simply going to be using knock down and on your mark. The reason we use these two is to have as many fragment slots as possible, because as I'll walk through in a second, these things are pretty necessary. First thing I'm going to use is Ember of Mercy. Ember of Mercy is simply allowing us to pick up a fire spike to grant restoration. Because of classy restoration, we were all used to having, restoration 24/7. After that nerf, we couldn't really have that on Solar, at least on a Solar Hunter. With this build, it allows us to simulate classy restoration and simulate that season of just having restoration and just having recovery that was out of this world. It isn't as strong because restoration times 2 is not what we have. We have restoration times 1, but it is really good. I would recommend using restoration and trying this out. So we pair it with radiant and restoration effects applied have increased duration and breath solace. This just allows restoration to go from, if I'm not mistaken, 2 seconds to 4 seconds, which in the grand scheme of things might not seem like a lot, but it's super, super nice, especially when we get to the other fragments that extend our duration as well. Next thing is going to be Ember of an Empyrean. Solar weapon or ability final blows extend the duration of restoration and radiant. What makes this really good is any solar weapons or solar abilities, so that includes our grenade and our melee, will extend that restoration, especially on top of Ember of Solace, from 3 to 4 seconds all the way up to 13 seconds. So even if you don't get any kill for a little bit, you'll have up to 13 seconds of restoration active. And then once you get another kill, those seconds get added back up. It's really, really nice. You'll always be in a state of restoration and radiant, because both of those things can go up to 10 to 13 seconds depending on whether or not you take advantage of Ember of Solace, but there's no reason not to, because you're going to be spamming so many solar abilities and so many solar weapon kills that it's always nice. The next thing, which is kind of like an additional healing factor in my opinion, is Ember of Resolve, because we're going to be running double fireball grenades, because we're going to have 2 from the class artifact. Every time we toss a fireball grenade, whenever it kills something, it'll give you a chunk of health, and that counts for every kill you get. This is just one more way to just get health back in a pinch. So we have health from our grenades, we have health from our melee, we have health from pretty much every ability or weapon source, because we're going to always have restoration applied, restoration's duration increased, grenades are going to heal us, and it's really, really nice. The gameplay loop is really, really nice. I know I keep saying that, but just give it a shot, you'll really enjoy it. And the last thing is Ember of Tempering. Solar weapon final blows grant you and your allies increased recovery for a short duration, stacks up to 3 times. While tempered metal is active, your weapons have increased airborne effectiveness. And the important thing, the reason that we are using Ember of Tempering, while Ember of Tempering is active, solar weapon final blows create a fire sprite. So the gameplay loop simply is getting a solar weapon kill, and that creates a fire sprite. We pick up that fire sprite, we get restoration, and then we take advantage of solar weapon abilities and solar weapon and solar abilities, giving us extended duration for restoration and radiant. This is important. If you use nothing else, these 3 are super important, because we want to get restoration first off consistently, and then we want to have restoration as long as possible, and on top of radiant as well. Now there is a cooldown on fire sprites, however that cooldown is 3 seconds. So even as you're killing enemies, and even as you're keeping restoration and radiant up, every 3 seconds that ability or weapon kill pretty much is going to allow you to keep the restoration up, so you can constantly have fire sprites. And once you get that new fire sprite, the cycle starts all over, so you get new restoration every single time. Now those restorations stay around for about 10 seconds on the ground, so you can manipulate it enough if you want to leave them on the ground for a little bit and pick them up when necessary. But these 5 things are what you want to run. I found a lot of success using them. I definitely think it's worth running all those together on top of Assassin's Cowl. Now we're gonna walk over what we like to use, which of course is built around Assassin's Cowl, which is another way of healing. If you don't know what Assassin's Cowl is now, then you should definitely know. I'm sure you've seen a lot of videos about it. But what I like to run on top of my Assassin's Cowl is a Solar Siphon. We're getting a lot of solar weapon kills anyway, so we might as well take orbs, which is going to give us another way of healing, another way of giving our abilities back, and something that's going to just extend our duration of everything working in our favor and get our super faster. The next thing, of course, is Ashes to Assets, Of course, Ashes to Assets increases your super when you get grenade kills. And because we'll have 2 fireball grenades, we're gonna just have that going faster. The other stuff, the mods are all subjective. I don't think anything necessary outside of maybe tier 7 to tier 9 on resilience, recovery, and discipline is necessary, but it's up to you. I just wanted to go for what these stats required from me and my playstyle. On the boost, we're gonna take recuperation and absolution. Recuperation is gonna give you a chunk of your health every time you pick up an orb. Absolution is going to give a chunk of your ability energy back to all of your abilities every time you pick up an orb as well. So you're going to always get health back. You're going to get closer to your next grenade, your next melee, your next acrobatic dodge, all that faster by using Absolution. I like to run a solar weapon surge just to get an extra 10% weapon damage across my weapons. Now, if you are in a scenario where you don't need a solar weapon, you're just slaying anyway, feel free to take another Absolution or take an Innervation or just take double recoup. But this is your freebie slot, just as long as you have recuperation and Absolution. I'm a big fan of those two, and they should always be there. For the gloves, you know what I like to always say, firepower, heavy-handed, bolstering, and detonation are kind of the trifecta that I always go for in these builds. Firepower is going to make an orb of power every single time we get a grenade kill. Heavy-handed is going to give us an orb of power every single time we get a ability melee kill. So every time we toss those knives, we get an orb. Every time we get our fireball grenade, we get an orb. And every time with bolstering detonation, we get class ability energy, so we get our acrobatic dodge back faster every time we damage a target with our grenade. So because the acrobatic dodge has a bit of a long cooldown, with Absolution, bolstering detonation, we're gonna pretty much have it up pretty fast, which is nice. On the class item, we're gonna always take time dilation, so our solar weapon surge lasts longer, which is very nice. Just a nice way to get kills faster, having that extra solar weapon surge. And double bomber. This is kind of the trifecta I like to run here often as well. Double bomber, every time we use our acrobatic dodge, it gives us a new grenade as well. The gameplay loop of getting our dodge and getting our grenades back, using our grenades to get our dodge back, it's really, really nice together. And then the chest, there's really nothing specific that you gotta run here. I'm just running a couple harmonic siphons just to take less solar damage. Sometimes, depending on the activity, I'll take less void damage, arc damage, strand, so whatever you're using, use that there. I like to run a sniper just in case I miss something when I'm in the fray that's going to hit me from behind. I like to just make sure I have one of those. But the chest is your freebie slot. Whatever resistance you need to run, put it on. For the weapons, I like to run some things that are going to allow me to take care of most champions and also do some pretty good chunk damage. Now, a few things you'll notice I like to run is Riptide. Riptide is fantastic for freezing targets and slowing down targets. It also takes care of unstoppable champions, so we got that covered right there. For the special weapon, there's a couple choices. If you are needing to take care of like certain enemies like overloads and stuff like that, I personally like to run a SMG like Callous Mantle with Unrelenting Incandescent. This is fantastic, just another way of healing and another way of just making fire sprites and things like that. But the more fun one is taking advantage of Explosive Personality. You get that land tank, which gives you more damage resistance. You're tossing grenades as well, anywhere from firebolts, so you're gonna have 50% more weapon damage with Explosive Personality from Golden Tricorn, and you're still gonna be making fire sprites. Now, that being said, if it isn't your style, totally understand, but a few that I really like to use is Explosive Personality, Kyle's Mini Tool, Vex, Mythic Class, but my favorite is Taraba. Taraba's gonna give you massive damage, and it's what I use to just slay out. But it is an exotic, and you can't use some of the better exotics in the heavy side when we get to that. So depending on what you're using, those are the 4 weapons I like to use, but take whatever you prefer. Now for the heavy, We're also taking advantage of solar weapons still. Of course, Parasite is what I like to run a lot of times because of it. Just like I get a bunch of kills with, you know, Callus or Explosive, and then I pull out Parasite real quick and just blow up everything. And remember, it's Solar Siphon, so we're still making orbs. Put it away, pull out everything else, and just keep on going. Now, if you're not really taking advantage of Parasite, or you don't like the gameplay loop that is Parasite, Gjallarhorn is a fantastic choice. A sleeper if you're in a quote-unquote damage scenario or need to like kill something high value from a distance. Sleeper is really good. Another really good choice is Xenophage. Xenophage is going to make fire sprays. Really, all souls are going to make fire sprays, but Xenophage is also a very fantastic choice for clearing out a lot of enemies in a short time. Another really good choice is Fixed Odds with Feeding Frenzy and Killing Tally. Killing Tally is really good on this weapon, even for it to be a 360, which isn't my favorite archetype. But these are just a couple of choices. This is a couple options. If you prefer a certain type of weapon archetype, by all means, go check it out. But I do think these are some of the better choices. Of course, you still have Izanagi's. Depending on the weapons, you can take advantage of Izanagi, you know, Ignition Code. Verglis Curve is really good with this build if you want to freeze things more often, but it depends on the activity you're doing. Looking at the build, there's a lot of good choices you can go for. Like I said, you really only need tier 8 resilience and tier 8 recovery. I went for 100 discipline just to have my grenade up as often as possible, just to get my dodge back as often as possible as well. With the resilience at 8, you're still taking 20% less damage. If you're taking advantage of explosive personality, you're getting a more higher number as well, because land tank times 3 also gives you damage resistance. And then restoration is going to basically be the same as 100 recovery in my eyes, because you're going to always have healing being applied at all times. And if nothing else, your abilities from your helmet is going to get you invisible and healed as well. So there isn't like a must-have build, but these are a lot of the foundations for this build, for this solar classy hunter, if you will. And it's really fun. I think you should try it out as well. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully it allowed you to have a new experience with Solar Hunter. If you did, make sure you like. If you have any changes or recommendations, make sure you comment. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe. Thank you so much for watching this video. We'll see you in the next one.